Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07 on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, if you missed our first hour, it's always the best part of our broadcast day, don't you think? It's the best part of the entire WMAL lineup, frankly.
It's pretty fun.
If you're only going to listen to 1 hour of radio every day, which we do not recommend, you should at least get 12 hours in. But if it's only going to be 1 hour, it should be 5 a.m. Don't you think, Jules?
I do.
That's what I always say.
We have fun.
Coming up at 6:35, Cal Thomas will be joining us at 7:05. Robert Greenway of Heritage on the NATO summit, and then at 8:35, reporter John Levine of the New York Post. He's the one who sort of broke that story about the Parkinson's specialist visiting the White House. I'm Larry O'Connor, and that's Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
And Julie, we're going to talk to the man now who wants to be your congressman. He's running against Gerry Connolly in the 11th district. He's Mike Van Meter. He's the Republican nominee, and he's here right now. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning, Larry and Julie. It's a great day to be an American, isn't it?
It is every day, absolutely, except for the traffic downtown because of NATO. Hey, listen, you're going to do a press conference today about your tax plan. Please tell me what you want to do about taxes other than cut them, if not eliminate them completely.
I don't know whether we're going to be able to eliminate them completely, but definitely cut them because Gerry Connolly, as you know, and you just mentioned the traffic congestion downtown, and that's exactly where Gerry Connolly is right now. He's down there figuring out how he can write some more blank checks over to Europeans. But the big one is, listen, we have to support these Trump tax cuts and make them permanent. You know, the TCJA, the Trump tax cuts, and make those permanent. And then really
and just so everyone knows, those sunset at the end of 2025. January 1st, 2026, those tax cuts are gone. Unless somebody steps in. And Joe Biden has already vowed that he will let them sunset, which is tantamount to raising our taxes.
Absolutely. And you know what I like about Donald Trump is he's very creative about what he's doing. For example, and this doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is to most Americans that are out there working. And that's really eliminating taxes on tips. If you heard of this, eliminating tax on restaurant workers and hospitality workers. I mean, that's phenomenal. I was in a restaurant the other night and I was talking to the waitress that was working, and she was just in tears because of the amount of money that she's paying, and it was a weeknight, and she was making very, very little money. A lot of the waitresses, you know, they survive on their tips, and this is just killing them. And when I explained to her what Donald Trump wanted to do with eliminating taxes for her, it was just unbelievable. And there's momentum. People want this because, Larry, the weird thing about this is we learned this under Ronald Reagan, that when you reduce taxes for people, believe it or not, the government actually collects more money because people are able to spend money. It's a weird thing that happens with this, but that's what Donald Trump wants to do. He's a businessman. He understands that, but he needs a Congress that will support him with these tax cuts and make them permanent. We've had enough of this. And Gerry Connolly has done nothing but raise taxes. You know, I like to call him Gerry Tax Con Man Connolly. You know, he takes all of this money and sends it overseas to Europeans. And meanwhile, we have all of these problems here on our own border, not to mention, you were talking earlier about Social Security. We're not going to have Social Security down the road, and Gerry Connolly is a big part of the reason why we're not going to have that, and this needs to come to an end.
I appreciate that, and taxes, I think, are going to be looming large here. It should be at least looming large for this next election, and Gerry Connolly has certainly never seen a tax cut that he can get behind. He can't get enough money when it comes to spending for the federal government. Also, you talk about tone deaf. Listen, there's a lot of stuff going on right now in this area in Congressman Connolly's district with regard to crime, with regard to border security, immigration, inflation. And what's he spending his time on? He wants to rename a prison in Florida after Donald Trump. What kind of clown is this?
You know, he is a clown. And I'll tell you something else, too. He's a coward. He's an absolute coward. You know, I'm a veteran, and you were talking earlier about how your daughter's in the military. By the way, my daughter is in the military right now. And for any parent that has a child that's in the military right now, this ought to scare the hell out of you when you watch this guy. And I'm very angry about the cover-up that's going on right now. And I love the slew of veterans that we have running for Congress here in Virginia. And this guy spends his time wanting to do things like he was part of a bill that was introduced along with a few other members of the House to rename this prison down in Miami near Mar-a-Lago after Donald Trump. And that's what he spends his time on. Well, I have an idea. How about we name a nursing home after Joe Biden? Now, that's just a joke. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to waste my time doing stuff like that. But that's what this guy does. He thinks it's a joke. And you know what? He's never served in the military like I did. He doesn't have a child in the military like I do. And this is not a joke. I'll tell you what, after last week, when we saw that debate, every American should be petrified at what's going on right now. And we need to get the adults back in town. We need to get the adults back in office. And that's why I'm proud to have received an endorsement recently from Veterans for Trump. And, American Veterans Vote. All of the veterans organizations are endorsing me because they realize this is a perilous time that we're in. But they think this is a big joke, and it's not. This is a dangerous time.
You know, he does, you talk about these stunts that he's more interested in. And one of the things he ignores is really what's going on in the world. And he sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. I mean, you look at what's happening in around the world. Today, women are suffering in Afghanistan. Christians are being attacked in 28 out of 54 countries in Africa. Interestingly, he objected to an audit of tax dollars that America has sent to Ukraine. He actually said, I'm all for transparency and accountability, but not now. He has completely ignored his responsibility on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. How would you do things differently?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you can go and go to YouTube and look at this video. He gave a very passionate speech on the House floor talking about how Ukraine's borders are our borders. Now, look, I'm not disparaging what's happening over in Ukraine. Don't get me wrong. But he actually criticized those that said that we need to prioritize our own border. And it needs to start there because with our own border, with people just coming across this border, we have national security issues. We have intelligence officers. We have gang members. We have fentanyl. We have human trafficking. And as many of your listeners know, I work in a hospital and detox unit now. I'm frontline every day, 10 hours a day, watching people die from fentanyl and working with women that have been sexually abused many, many, many times. And it's a human tragedy. And I think what I will do first and foremost is prioritize the problems we have here. He loves spending money overseas, but he's not spending money here. He's not been to the border. He doesn't care about the border. Yep. Which means he doesn't care about the people here. And any one of the people listening to me right now, if you spent one day with me at work in the unit that I work in, you would be on your rooftop shouting for people to please, please make this stop. And that's the human tragedy part of it. Fentanyl is, fentanyl alone, forget about all the other drugs, just fentanyl kills well over 100,000 people per year. The numbers go up, by the way, every month. They never go down. And that's more people than we had die in combat that we had in our 10-year involvement in Vietnam. We have more than that every year. And nobody talks about it. Connolly sure as heck doesn't talk about that. No. Oh, there's going to be a lot of changes when I get elected, and we need to get elected. And we can do that. We can win in Northern Virginia. I do not accept that we cannot win. And you know something? Donald Trump is going to win Virginia, and he's going to do so by coming to Northern Virginia and motivating those voters. Let me just tell you something real quick, something I never saw the other day. This will shock you. In that restaurant that I was telling you about, it was a diner.
Yeah.
And there was a Hispanic family that came in. I've never seen this in Northern Virginia. Deep in the heart of blue territory, behind enemy lines. Right there in the restaurant, there was a family that came in, and the father and one of the sons were wearing red MAGA hats right there in the restaurant, loud and proud.
Brave.
And they loved it. And I went over to the man and I shook his hand. I said, I love that. And this man, who is a first generation, he came here. He's an immigrant here. And he said, I love Donald Trump. We need Donald Trump. And he was wearing that hat. And I said, I love that. The tide is changing.
Mike Van Meter. It's VanMeterForVirginia.com. VanMeterForVirginia.com. Real fast, has Connolly agreed to a debate yet?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely not. He won't do it because he's a coward.
Yep,
he's a tax con, and he is a coward. He will not do it. Anytime, Gerry. Let's do it.
It's 6:15. WMAL, traffic and weather every 10 minutes.
WMAL. Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939. Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 p.m.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
This is
You're supposed to stand up, right? The president is. This is the music they play.
Why
for
are
the
you
president.
standing up?
Because it's the president.
Right. Okay.
That's the music. Right?
Can we start?
Hail to the chief.
Yes, got it. Well, apparently, this is such a weird story, but it's so fitting for this White House. Apparently, Dr. Jill has her own entrance music, Larry. The Marine
Hail to the doctor.
Well, we had some theories on some pop songs that could be used that aren't appropriate to talk about on the air.
Well, I'm glad you raised it
but
now.
They created a whole song. The Marine Corps band was asked to create an entire song for her.
Wow.
Yeah.
The narcissism.
Do you know John Ekdahl? I'm not.
Oh, yeah. He's
familiar with
great
him.
on
Okay.
Twitter. Yeah. He
Yeah,
pointed
he's on
this out.
Twitter.
It was in an article from J. Beckett Adams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He pointed out the Marine Corps band was instructed last fall to come up with an entrance theme for the First Lady.
Right.
A source told the Washington Post. So
So just real fast.
Sure.
They weren't asked. You don't ask.
I know.
When the White House says, "Hey, it sure would be a great idea if the Marines could come up with a song," that's voluntold.
Yes, you're right. Yes, you're.
They were
absolutely right.
commanded by their
Yes.
commander in chief.
Yes.
You better come up with a fanfare for
Remember
Jill
earlier,
Biden.
Larry, we were talking about the sort of pathological narcissism of this entire family.
Yeah.
This is yet another sort of example of the idea that this woman, I mean, can you imagine? Melania Trump was so humble. She really, she did a few official things. She was really sort of quiet and in the background, right? And she redesigned the Rose Garden, which of course she was smeared for.
Right.
Everything she did, she was smeared for. Can you imagine if she had done this sort of Evita Peron,
Thank you.
come up, design my own entrance song? Can you, the hysterics.
Oh, the heads would be exploding
Kayleigh
everywhere.
McEnany probably wouldn't have been able to come out to the podium.
Can we listen to it?
Yes, let's do.
It debuted earlier in the presidency, this song, when Jill Biden, Dr. Jill, was introduced for an event having to do with education on the South Lawn in the White House. Here's what it sounded like by those trumpeters there. That's impressive.
well done.
But did that sound familiar to you? Because I heard it said, there's something
Well,
familiar
you're better
about
at this.
that.
You've got a theater background, so you're better at
suppose.
identifying. It didn't sound familiar to me, but then you play. Okay, just
This is a. I loved this show.
remember that.
Right. It's this is the song. So I heard that, and I immediately thought, F Troop. F Troop. This was a great show. I loved this show. I watched it in reruns all the time. It was hilarious. F Troop. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, can you? Let's listen to it.
Oh wow. Okay, this
That's F Troop.
You know, someone in the Marine Corps band was just like, just let's use that.
Right, exactly.
It reminds me of
Seriously, we got to come up with a song for the First Lady.
It reminds me of Elton John when he had to compose a new song for Diana and he just reused Candle in the Wind.
Right.
Nobody'll know.
Well, he did rewrite the lyrics a little bit, but sure.
I can't believe you
It's
know
so close.
that theater background comes in handy.
Speaking of Elton John, they could have just used The Bitch Is Back. That's a great song. And that would have been see, if you're going to have a walk-on
We're just quoting
song-
Hunter.
That's right. Well, no, actually.
I know.
Hunter used a
I
different
know.
word that
I
doesn't
got it.
begin with B. Yeah, see? I'm so sorry. I forgot. She's from Philadelphia. I meant Philadelphia Freedom.
Okay.
Very different Elton John song.
Apparently, this band has retired. The Marine band has retired. Fanfare. It had a title, Fanfare for the First Lady.
Oh, stop it.
And they've retired it, according to a source familiar with. This is again from, I guess, Beckett.
J. Beckett Adams.
Yeah, it said, according to a source familiar with the decision, the band quietly shelved the song following the publication of this article.
Damn it, they found out about it. Yeah, she's definitely changing things in this White House, isn't she?
Yeah.
Not to mention the upholstery on all the sofas.
I mean, this is why she wants to stay in power.
Sure. She's changing the upholstery, by the way, because that's what she wears as dresses now.
She stripped all the couches.
If you haven't watched F Troop, but you have 3 teenage boys, they would love F Troop. It's fantastic.
I'll add it to the list.
All right. Here comes the First Lady.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here on a busy Wednesday, as they all are. It's pretty much busy from now until the end of the world, frankly. Just feels that way. Coming up at 7:05, Robert Greenway from Heritage Foundation on the NATO summit that's messing up your traffic in town. And at 8:35, John Levine, he's the New York Post reporter who sort of uncovered the story that a neurologist, a specialist in Parkinson's, has been visiting the White House over 8 times in just 8 months. And the White House is still not coming clean about it. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning. Joining us now is Cal Thomas, syndicated columnist and bon vivant, man about town. Are you stateside, or are you still on the continent?
No, came back trying to lose a couple of pounds from all that pasta in Sicily, but working on it.
We were reflecting earlier, yes, about the traffic and the mayhem that the NATO summit is causing in our fair city, but also about the messaging. Joe Biden made his way through a teleprompter-enhanced speech last night, warning of dire consequences. NATO's more important than ever. We've never seen this kind of threat before. And I was like, I wasn't like a grown-up or anything, but I remember the 80s and the Cold War and nuclear Armageddon. If NATO is so vital, Cal, why do they try to hyperbolically blow it up with this kind of rhetoric? Yeah, there's an issue right now with Putin and Ukraine and everything, but this is the end of the world and is right around the corner? Really?
Well, Larry, you and Julie have been around Washington long enough to know that you always have to have a crisis, because if you don't have a crisis, then you don't have a reason for existing. And if you don't have a reason for existing, then people might think, well, gee, we may not need government as much as they say we do. So it's always a crisis, but they never get solved. Have you noticed the problems never get solved? We need another 4 years. Haven't had enough time. The problems are too great. You hear this all the time. It's Lucy in the football. It's every other analogy you can think of. And, how about just leaving us alone for a while? We did pretty well without you. Now you've got $34 trillion debt. You got open borders. Biden has been in some kind of office, one or another, for 50 years. If he hadn't solved anything by then, why would we give him another 4 years, if we assume he can outlive his actuarials?
Yeah.
Cal, you mentioned we've been around to Washington long enough. You have too, and you've seen scandals in Washington. This cover-up, to me, it makes Watergate look like petty theft, and I feel like this really is a massive scandal. Where do you put this, and how much longer can this go on? How much longer can they continue to cover this up?
Well, Julie, I'm always amused when I hear the words scandal, because since we have jettisoned a concept of right and wrong, good and bad, good and evil, what standard are we using now to determine scandal? And according to whom? And who gets to write the rules? Look, this is typical of Democrat and Republican administrations, but mostly Democrats, because Democrats get away with it. And the reason they get away with it, of course, is because the media is engaged in a vast cover-up. As I wrote in my column yesterday, there's only one and very fast way to fix this neurological business. You take the test. It's very simple. It's not complicated. It's an easy test, and the results can be released immediately. And if he doesn't have a cognitive problem, then the issue goes to rest. But clearly they're covering it up with all of this business. Well, we have this Parkinson's doctor who visited. We have 1,000 military people there, and we can't release this because of privacy and blah, blah, blah. It's flim-flam. It's snake oil.
It is. Wait, it sounds like you're about to break into a song from the Music Man.
A pool table, don't you understand, friend? Either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster of neurological disorder in this White House. A slight change.
Well done. I like it. A good improv. That is exactly what we're seeing here, though, is complete and total flim. And I can guarantee you the president has a cognitive problem, because he still thinks this fake bravado of answering questions with just watch me, come and Larry, we are watching. Yes. That's the problem. But he thinks that's still working, that I take a test every day. Yeah, well, you're failing.
Yeah, well, I brush my teeth every day, but what does that say? Look, when you just tune in to see the speech, not to really hear the content, but just see if he can stand up long enough to conclude the speech, if he can leave on the right side of the stage, and if he gets pictures of a platform so he knows what the platform looks like, you know you got trouble in River City.
And he still messes it up. Cal, right. By the time we speak next, we will be in the middle of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, and we will know who Trump's running mate is. You are plugged in. You have sources. You've seen it all. Who's it going to be?
Well, I wasn't going to say this, but he did call me the other day.
Oh, God.
And I said, yeah. And the problem was a wrong number. He meant to call somebody else.
That's awkward.
I have absolutely no insight. I mean, you've seen all the speculation. My personal preference would be Nikki Haley, but it's not going to happen. She brings foreign policy experience. She brings the gender thing. She's incredibly articulate. But he wants somebody who is completely loyal. John Bolton's got a piece, the former national security advisor. He said there are two questions, in his view, that will be asked of any vice presidential pick. Do you think the 2020 election was stolen? And what was the other one? Would you basically do whatever I tell you to do? I think the important role of a vice president, other than the minimal one, just to be there in case he's needed as president, is would you tell him the truth? I mean, really good people need people around to say, look, this is not the right direction to go. You need to rethink this. Loyalty is that. It's not sycophancy. Did I pronounce that right?
I think you did. I think you did. All right. So Nikki Haley and John Bolton.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Well, Bolton's going to get it.
Read the room.
Yeah. I mean, even Rubio would be a good pick.
You're testing us, Cal.
Yeah, really. I'm on the edge.
Yeah.
So it's going to be J.D. Vance. Thanks for that. Okay. Appreciate it.
All right.
Bye, Cal. It's 6:44. I'm not losing my hair anymore. In fact, I'm growing my hair back because.
Yeah. So, Larry, Hollywood kids. I mean,
I'm a Hollywood kid?
Yeah, well, you grew up in
I raised some
Hollywood
kids, but we got out.
With some end up normal and productive members of society, but some are nuts.
Yeah,
and
the vast majority are nuts.
Yeah, and look, we should have some sympathy. They're raised by lunatics. And the latest example of that is Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner's daughter, Violet. She's 18.
Okay.
She attended the LA County Board of Supervisors, where she advocated, I can't believe this, for mask mandates in hospitals. Let's listen.
Hi, Violet Affleck, Los Angeles resident, first-time voter. I'm 18. I contracted a post-trial condition in 2019. I'm okay now, but I saw firsthand that medicine does not always have answers to the consequences of even minor viruses. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown that into sharper relief. 1 in 10 infections leads to long COVID, which is a devastating neurological cardiovascular illness that can take away people's ability to work, move, see, and even think, stands to exacerbate our homelessness crisis, as well as the suffering of many people in our city. It hits communities of color, disabled people, elderly people, trans people, women, and anyone in a public-facing essential job the hardest. To confront the long COVID crisis, I demand mask availability, air filtration, and far UVC light in government facilities, including jails and detention centers, and mask mandates in county medical facilities. We must expand the availability of high-quality free tests and treatment, and most importantly, the county must oppose mask bans for any reason. They do not keep us safer. They make vulnerable members of our community less safe and make everyone less able to participate in Los Angeles together. Thank you.
She did it in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not surprised at all by this. Look, I think that the way you really get your dad's attention, Ben Affleck, you get your mom's attention, be political.
Right.
These are two very political. Everyone thinks Jennifer Garner's this America's sweetheart. She is vile. She is a huge leftist. And I want to just remind you, a couple months ago, this is after October 7th, this girl, Violet, their oldest daughter, she was seen walking around Hollywood with a T-shirt that had a pro-Palestinian message. In addition, their youngest daughter, Serafina, pink hair, kind of looks a little bit, edgy. She used her grandfather's funeral in West Virginia just recently to announce her new male name, Finn, and that, she's non-binary, and she goes...
Their new name.
Yes, and she goes by the pronoun they. I think we have a cut.
Hello, my name is Finn Affleck. I'm reading verse 8. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 8.
Oh, and it was when they were doing a Bible reading.
Right,
That's
for her
sweet.
grandfather. And so she, again, I think these kids, their parents are troubled. Ben Affleck, how they get divorced. He marries Jennifer Lopez. Thank you.
J-Lo.
And, their father is also very political. So
apparently, though, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors in Los Angeles, after hearing that from Violet Affleck, they're demanding all of these things. Yeah, the supervisor leaned forward and said, "I'm sorry, did you say your last name was Affleck?" "Absolutely, we'll do everything you say."
Yes, exactly.
This is Hollywood. It's 6:53.
Making sense of your world.
Something you just don't hear anywhere else.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.